New York and on the new Hot 97 app. Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
Ebro in the morning, Laura Stiles, Rosenberg, and give it up for Governor Phil Murphy, the governor of New Jersey. How long you been in office now?
19 months.
19 months.
January of 2018.
Rosenberg just had the honor, the luxury of vacationing out in the great state of New Jersey.
Yes, at Crystal Springs. It was nice.
VacationNewJersey.com. I just made that up. I don't know, whatever the tourism
It's a great
site is.
idea.
Whatever. Visit New Jersey. I'm sure it's a Visit New Jersey.
We're gonna copyright that.
How was it, Rosenberg?
It was actually really, really nice. I got to tell you, I was impressed to know that New Jersey had places that you could go vacation, it was 60, 70, 80 minutes from the city. Very, very close. And really feels like you're away and on vacation. I thought it was pretty cool.
And that's why you're here today, because he went on vacation in New Jersey. And you were like, I got to go to this show and really seize the tourism opportunity here.
Listen, it highlights a great paradox in New Jersey. We're the densest state in the nation, on the one hand. On the other hand, we've got some gorgeous places in our state. Huge diversity in every respect. Yeah. Where you played golf, the shore, where I was for part of the weekend, and everything in between. It's an extraordinary state.
And so how long have you lived in the state?
We bought our home 21 years ago with the explicit intention to raise our kids there. I'm originally a Massachusetts guy. My wife's from Virginia. And we said we're going to plant our flag in New Jersey. We fell in love with it, and we've raised... So far, so good. Four kids, amazing. And one of the great decisions we ever made.
Now, you were working at Goldman Sachs?
I was.
Which is, you were in the finance world, and let's call it the heyday, if you will. So you did pretty well for yourself.
Did okay, and we got out before the roof fell in.
Right.
But you're absolutely right.
So before we get into New Jersey, I would love to ask you about what's going on with the stock market today. You as a veteran, and you see the president every day toying with the... Tweet this about a tariff, tweet that. The stock market goes up, the stock market goes down. How do you view this?
Couple of things. Not well is the answer. We in New Jersey are doing great. We just printed our second consecutive all-time lowest unemployment rate in New Jersey. So that's a great thing,
Congrats.
Particularly given I inherited an economic mess. So we're digging out of it. We're not spiking any footballs.
So Christie didn't do a good job over there is what you're saying?
I would say with all due respect, he did not. The problem I've got is with Trump. I've got many problems with Trump, but two issues in particular on the economy. Number one, in particular, the tax bill that got passed a year and a half ago has added enormously to the inequities and the divisions in our country. The haves and have-nots have widened dramatically.
So he didn't help. He didn't help the have-nots with that.
He did not. He not only
don't say. So he lied to people.
Not only did he not help the middle class and those who dream someday of getting in the middle class, which is by the way how I grew up. He hurt them. Secondly, more recently, he's throwing volatility into our economy that is unnecessary. Is he right to call out China for an unlevel playing field in the economy and in currencies? Yes, he is completely right about that. But the way you do it, the way he's going about it, is adding undue volatility to an already, I would say, fragile economy.
Okay.
And so... As good as we might be doing in New Jersey with a long way still to go, we are still beholden to the national and international realities, and they concern me right now.
On the money coming into New Jersey, when you got into office, said in the first 100 days you would get recreational marijuana across the line.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
It has not happened.
What would you like to say about that?
Very frustrated. We've tried. We opened up the medical marijuana regime dramatically. That had been gummed up completely by the Christie administration. I'm proud of that. And thousands, tens of thousands more folks who have access to that today. So that's a good thing. We've tried on adult use. We haven't gotten it done yet. We try to do it legislatively, which only one other state's done that. So that's the hard way to go. I want to get another shot at it. Overwhelmingly, folks want it. The status quo is completely unacceptable. I got there because of social justice. We have the widest white, non-white gap of persons incarcerated in America, and the far and away the biggest contributor to that is low-end drug offenses. 600 people, plus or minus, this week will be arrested on marijuana offenses in New Jersey, overwhelmingly people of color. So folks who think the status quo is is okay don't know the status quo. They don't understand that our kids are exposed, the social injustices, the drug traffickers are writing the rules and making the money. So I'm frustrated. I'm not going to give up. We're going to get this done one way or another, and I hope sooner than later.
What's standing in the way?
I think it's generational on the legislative side. It didn't break down the folks who were for it versus against it. It didn't break down along the usual power lines in New Jersey. It was largely folks of a different era are having a hard time getting their mind around it.
And church folks a little bit, right?
To some extent. To some extent. That also broke.
Is Big Pharma hurting you is big pharmaceutical companies? Because I have my own theory, which is, obviously helping people get off opioids, helping people find alternatives to prescription drugs is CBD, medical marijuana, these other things that big pharmaceutical is not going to be able to benefit from necessarily until they buy in some way, shape, or form. There's a lot of pharmaceutical companies in New Jersey. Are they causing you some problems getting this across the line?
Not that I know of, but you've
That's
also...
usually how it happens, though, when you don't know about it.
You don't know about it. Somebody sneaks up on you, right? Not that I know of, but I want to reiterate a point you just made, Ebro, about the medical side. This is now transformational. As an alternative, when you open up the alternatives to what a patient can access on a going-in medical situation, and then on a recovering, on the other end of the bell curve, when you're recovering, someone's recovering, and the options that you have there, the medical marijuana reality in our state has transformed both of those realities for the good. We have a long way still to go, but it's a huge game changer for thousands of people in our state.
And how much money does New Jersey stand to make if you were able to get this across the line in tax dollars?
Probably something in the low hundreds of millions of dollars. But we could use every penny. It's not the reason we're doing it. As I said, social justice is why we're at it, why we're going to stay at it. But it's probably a $200 to $300 million reality. Which
and I just want to go on the record to say that I wish that people did things for the right reasons. Like social justice. That's not why people do things. People do things for money. I don't think that, and I think that a lot of states and governments have failed because they're going at it from the social justice angle. I don't really honestly believe that people care about these young black men and brown men getting locked up and put in jail. I just don't. I don't think, I think they see them as criminals. They're breaking the law, put them in jail. They're breaking the law, they put them in jail. Even though you could tell them, but white kids are doing it in the suburbs and this is how, they just don't care. The only path to get there is when you start talking about cancer patients, you start talking about epilepsy, you start talking about arthritis, you start talking about the price of prescription drugs, the damage it's doing to kidneys and livers and these other things. Then you start to bring in a coalition of other people that don't care necessarily about helping young black and brown boys keep from a life of crime or getting their records screwed up long term.
I'd say two things. One, I hope our administration is an exception to that. We have the most diverse administration in the history of our state.
Well, no, the administration might be. I'm saying the voter.
No, I hear you. Secondly, you couldn't be more right in this respect. Look at the opioid crisis. It was ravaging our urban communities long before it made the front page of the newspaper.
That's right.
And only when it made the front page of the newspaper, and it's a reality in a crisis in all 21 of our counties, probably in every county in America, only then did the focus and the investment, et cetera, get into solving it and trying to break the back.
Even back with crack. Nobody cared about what black people were going through with crack. It was just say no. What's wrong with you? Can't you say no?
Right.
Amen. I'm still an optimist. I hope we can bend the curve, if not break the curve on the attitudes as well as the realities, but you're absolutely right.
So can you tell us what's happening with the water contamination in Newark? Like, how did we get here?
So this is, I've got to distill this because it's a long story. Newark, like a lot of communities in our state and in our country, by the way, this is a national reality, not just in Newark or New Jersey, have lead service pipes.
What is that?
That means that the pipe that delivers the water into your home is lead.
So from the street to the home?
To the home.
Okay.
Newark's water source, unlike in, say, Flint, where there was a question
contamination at the source.
Newark's source has been proven time and again to be clean and lead free. So there are about 15 to 18,000 residences, largely residences, that have lead service lines from this particular source, the Pequannock source. So this goes back over 20 years. You have two choices. You replace the lead lines, which is really expensive and takes a long time, particularly in a city as Mayor Baraka, who is, I think, doing a great job as mayor, reminds everybody that 70% of the residents are renters. So you need the landlord's permission to do the work.
Wait, time out. So 70% of the people with this problem are renting homes.
Correct.
That the landlord did not change this pipe and or provide a solution.
Yeah, again, I think it's actually 70% of the residents in all of Newark.
Okay.
Mayor Baraka will correct me if I'm wrong. So you've got to get permission from the landlord to do the work, and it's expensive and it takes a long time. Newark has started on that process, and just last week an announcement was made that they're going to accelerate with the Essex County. They're going to accelerate that dramatically, and we're all into. We've already helped them, and we'll continue to help.
You put up 120 million.
120 million. They're going to float a bond, I think, for 120 million dollars, and the state's going to be right there as a partner, as we have been. The other alternative, if you haven't replaced the lead line, is to send a chemical through the water, a benign chemical, that coats the inside of the pipes, and it prevents the pipe from leaching. And so there was one chemical that was being sent through these pipes since 1997, and that worked for 20 years, regularly tested, and for whatever reason, I'm not a chemist, it stopped working 2 years ago. So the long story short is the recent several weeks is a culmination of steps that have been taken over the past couple of years. Testing, retesting, water filters, different chemical now going through the pipes. Now finally, which is great, a big plan to replace the pipes. And there were three filters that were tested. Each one brought the lead down, but two of them didn't bring it down enough. And so out of an abundance of caution, the city, with our complete support, has been giving out bottled water until there's more testing done to the residents who to either drink or cook with that water. You don't have to worry about bathing. Particular shout out to women who are pregnant or nursing or infants, kids under 6 or elderly and infirmed. I think it's probably another couple of weeks until we've got not three data points, but hundreds. And at that point, collectively with the EPA, our Department of Environmental Protection, the city, we will all have a much better sense of what the broader testing tells us and what the game plan is from that moment forward.
And with the information you have, was this caught in time? You said there was chemicals being sent through these pipes that were coating them. Yeah. What was the period of time where there was discovery that this wasn't working any longer?
The question, I think, is did they act promptly? And I think the answer is yes. And I say that because they've started the replacement of a 10-year plan, which they now hope to do in as short as 3 years of all the lead lines. They changed chemicals. That chemical looks like it's working. Knock on wood. It will take a few more months to determine that for sure. They passed out thousands of filters, either literally on your faucet or on your pitcher of water. And then when they got these 3 data points on a Friday night, we were handing out water to residents on Monday morning. So that's as quick a turnaround.
And so it wasn't like this was going on for years and people didn't know.
I don't think there's evidence that people were sitting on their hands on this. This is too important. And again, it's not just in Newark. It's around the state. It's around the country. This is a national crisis.
And this is unlike Flint, to reiterate. Flint's government water source had been contaminated.
Yes.
This is private lines going from the street to homes.
Yes.
That aren't governed by the city or the state. Am I right?
They're governed by the city, by the provider, but the most important point is the source of the water is clean.
Got it.
That's not an issue. If you're in this, if you've got one of these lead lines, that's the question. And so whether it's putting a chemical through it, and it looks like this new chemical is starting to work, knock on wood, too early to tell for sure, or whether it's replacing your lines or in the meantime using filters, whatever it might be, I think the game plan is a sensible one.
Can a city force a homeowner to change lines?
So we've had conversations about this. I think it's going to. I don't have a definitive answer, but I believe it's going to require a change in the law or a statute of some sort. But it would make life a lot easier if the work could be done
without the approval,
without having to chase down the approvals, particularly if it's somebody who's not living in the resident who's the owner.
Wow. On a positive note for a state of New Jersey, how's sports gambling done for you guys?
Well, and by the way, I think on lead, knock on wood, we're gonna solve this riddle. It's just I'm confident we will solve it. I'm not sure exactly when or how, but we will solve that riddle. Sports betting is booming. We've now passed Nevada for several months in a row as the #1 sports book in America, and it is booming. It's added life and energy into the casinos, into the racetracks.
What kind of money are we talking about for New
Well,
Jersey?
for the total amount bet is now in the billions.
Okay.
For New Jersey, the take is relatively modest. It's probably going to be in the $25 to $50 million. But we'll take every penny. But it's, I think, the ancillary. I use this example a lot. You heard the story about couples or friends going out to Vegas for the NFL wild card weekend and spending 3 nights and obviously going to the sports book, but also going to a show and buying a nice dinner and a bottle of wine. Increasingly, we're getting that here. We're getting in Atlantic City. We're getting a lot of traffic over the Hudson, going to the Meadowlands or Monmouth Park. It's added a real energy in addition to the dollars and cents.
And where do the dollars actually go that you do make?
The general fund. So they go into funding the state. And our administration has been all in on, we talked about some of the big social justice steps we're taking. We're also hugely increasing investment in public education, in transportation. Those would probably be the big ones. Basically, we inherited a state, as I said, that was a mess, and in particular where the middle class and the folks who wanted to get into the middle class were somewhere between ignored and ravaged. We're now reversing that. It's why we are big believers in tax fairness, why we think the wealthiest among us should pay a little bit more to help us fund that reinvestment. But that's generally, it's going to the general investments of the state.
You brought up transportation. NJ Transit is one of your major priorities.
Yes, sir.
And as governor, just so everybody understands, similar to a mayor, governor, president, we wish, the job is to manage the business affairs of the state and make sure, while being a face of the state and being somebody that people can look to for leadership, the job is managing the business, right? Where collecting the money and allocating the dollars to the priorities and prioritizing.
Making the trains run on time, not to be too glib, right?
NJ Transit hasn't been invested in how long?
Oh, this is, listen, if I always say this, if New Jersey's the turnaround story in America, NJ Transit is the turnaround story in New Jersey. At one point in the Christie administration, they cut the state support by 90%.
To NJ Transit?
To NJ Transit. And by the way, during their time in office, the commuters had paid fares, increased fares of 36%. We've now put historic back-to-back years of investment into NJ Transit, hundreds of millions of dollars each year, and we've held fares flat now for 2 years in a row. It's not fixed yet by any means, but we are turning it around step by step. It used to be the gold standard of mass transit, both the rail and the bus side in America. It was viewed to be the place that people looked to and said, that's the way you run a transit system, and it was completely busted when we got there, but it will be that again. Not overnight, but it will be.
What are the steps? What has to happen?
Well, you got a investment that was put off, safety standards, federal safety standards that were not being met that are now being met. You had the wrong management. You didn't have enough money from the state being put in it. And in particular, I'll give you the best example. They had let the pool of engineers that can actually run the trains dwindle to where there was almost no degrees of freedom. If somebody's on vacation or sick, you're taking trains off because you don't have the manpower to run the darn train. So we have pushed hard to turn that around. In fact, this year we have 6 classes of engineers, 2 of which will graduate this year, and slowly but surely we'll have the manpower to be able to staff the trains and make them run much more reliably on time.
So if you're graduating high school in New Jersey right now and you want to go into work, it sounds like a good place to go.
It's a very good place.
Engineering.
It's a great listen. We're a big organized labor state, so it's a great. You get the comfort of knowing you're part of a broader family. It's a really good career, and you make a good living.
Are there any other industries in New Jersey that are the focal point as you try to balance the economy and grow the economy?
I'd say the two big sub-economies for us are one we've already talked about, infrastructure, and that's transportation, a lot of that. As I mentioned earlier, we're the densest state in the nation. We have an incredible location between New York and Philly on the Northeast Corridor. So you look at ports, bridges, rails, roads, tunnels, anything associated with that is going to be a key economy for us. And the other one is one that we used to dominate, and I'm hopeful we will again, and that's innovation. That's tech, telecom, life sciences, pharmaceuticals, as you mentioned earlier. We were, you could argue, Silicon Valley before there was a Silicon Valley. You had Bell Labs, Sarnoff Labs, the big pharma, 8 Nobel laureates alone in Bell Labs. And we lost that. We lost that edge. We lost the startup culture, the startup community, and we're getting that back. I won't. There's a whole long list of stuff we're doing to reignite that. But particularly for the young person getting out of college or getting out of high school and saying, okay, where am I going to plant my flag? We want New Jersey to be on the list of folks saying that's where I got to be.
His name is Governor Phil Murphy. Seems like a likable guy. It's our first time meeting him.
Yeah.
Rosenberg, will he become a friend of the show?
I could see it happening. I could see him being a friend of the show.
Is there a process I have to go through?
We'll talk.
It's multiple conversations, multiple interviews, And look, things go good and sometimes things go left. We've been great with Mayor de Blasio for a long time, and the Officer Pandaleo thing got hairy between us, but, we came out on the right side of that.
I think it worked out.
The guy lost his job, and they handled it well. We had a tough time, but I think it worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
I hope to have that badge of honor of a friend of the program.
Yeah, no, we like you, man. It seemed like a good guy. Who you got winning the president? Who are you liking in the Democratic field? Let's go there. Not winning, but
so we came out. Please God, it's a Democrat, and we came out right out of the blocks with Cory Booker, who's an old and dear friend and a guy who, beyond being just a friend, I think has earned it. The numbers aren't showing it quite yet, although the last couple of polls show a little bit of a bounce. Which is great, but I still think he is the man. And having said that, if it isn't going to be Cory, and I hope it is, sign me up as whoever the D is. We got to make this president a one-term president.
Governor Phil Murphy, give it up for him one time, representing the state of New Jersey. Come back, man.
I will be.
We got to talk more about this money someday.
I would love
Top
that.
97.